Everyone, good morning. Good morning. Dynasty Mirror, Prince Dynasty Mirror, Search for a Guru. We are live from Lagos, Nigeria, the city I love. Now, I interviewed some people on if they prefer Abuja versus Lagos. Like I love Lagos, but I love Abuja too, so I love both. But some people prefer Abuja over Lagos. I can see why, because the traffic is Wahala here in Lagos. But in Abuja, good roads, gets where you need to be, hardly any traffic. So I can see why Abuja, but I love Legos. I'm gonna have houses in both. Oh, shout out to Mufasa. Mufasa, I'm so sorry, brother. I did not link up with you while I was in Abuja, but I might come back to Abuja. It just depends. I have some stuff I got to get done here in Lagos. Some administrative stuff and some people to meet. If for some reason I can get all that stuff done by hopefully to move down cheap Ubers. So yeah, I am still in Lagos. Let me give this disclaimer real quick. If my internet goes out, so if I disappear for like a minute, apologize. I apologize. So shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you go to dynastybird.com. Also tour Sierra Leone. We are rolling in November, early December. If you're interested in joining us, please hit me up. Send me a message. Go to searchforwho.com or dynastybird.com. Send me a message and all that good stuff. Also go to oneafricaproperties.com, your central source for real estate on the African continent. African continent. Damn, Mufasa, what time you leaving? Let me know what time you leave, Mufasa. But anyways, guys, again, thank you for joining. Almost at 100K subscribers. When we get to 100K, I have a special giveaway for a lucky subscriber. I'll probably do a raffle. We'll figure it out. So, like I said, I will have a special giveaway for a lucky subscriber. A lot of people have been wanting me to talk about this brother Polight situation. A lot of people have been wanting me to talk about, I think it's the Hidden History Museum. Tariq Nasheed, he just raised $1 million. Congratulations. Can't hate on a brother who has raised $1 million. So what that proves is that black folks do have some money. If you can raise $1 million for a museum, congratulations. I mean, can't hate. Would I build a museum where he's building a museum? No. But hey, I didn't donate. I'm not on the building committee, the construction committee. So, it's really none of my business. I hope it works out. Um, I just think there's a lot of hurdles when it comes to doing something like that, especially in LA. I would have done it somewhere else, maybe Atlanta, um, maybe somewhere else. But again, it's none of my business. But we'll talk about that later. You know what? Let me start with the brother Polight situation. So I want to say last year, me and my mother, we had a disagreement. And so I remember calling one of my friends saying, me and my mom are seeing eye to eye on something, and I'm upset. And this is what he told me. This is how he responded. He said, Dynas, were you ever sexually abused growing up? I said, no. He then said, Dynas, did your mom or any of your family members ever smoke crack in front of you? I said, no. He said, Dynas, you had a great mom. So I had to step back for a minute, called my mom, and we made amends. So we're good. Sexual abuse is something you don't take lightly, especially of a minor. It's disgusting. And it's not looking good for Brother Polight, especially with the DNA evidence. And this is the part. This is the part I don't understand. You being a grown man, Brother Polight is, I think, 37 or 38 years old. What are you doing alone with a 14-year-old at a hotel or at an after-hour spot? Who takes a 14-year-old to an after-hour spot? Like that right there is just enough to say, okay, something is off. And as we get older and as we, start having conversations about life and how we grew up, I'm starting to notice that a lot of, especially women and men and boys, have been sexually abused growing up. But at the same time, let me be balanced. There are a lot of men who have been wrongfully accused of sexual assault, rape, sexual abuse. Again, wrongfully accused. You have Brian Banks. That's one. But when it comes to Polight, you don't you don't take a 14-year-old out to an after-hour spot. You don't do that. The DNA, yeah, something is off. And then also too, I haven't been how can I put it? Yeah, you just don't do that. That was just, yeah, it's not looking good for him. So, what I was gonna say, again, I haven't been really following it because I just been enjoying my time in Africa. I'm back home. He hasn't denied doing it, because usually if you're accused of something like that and you didn't do it, you will come out and say, I didn't do it, and deny that you didn't do it. I mean, you'll deny that I didn't do that. He hasn't done that, from my understanding. So it's not looking good for him. If he's guilty, well, again, because of the legal process, you're innocent until proven guilty. But it's not looking good for him at all. What he did or is accused of doing is disgusting, and it's just a bad look. Which brings me to another point: the conscious community. He had consent. She's 14. How can you get consent from a 14-year-old? No. I don't know. Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, it's disgusting. Again, you take a 14-year-old to an after-hour spot. That's just disgusting. Yeah, like I said, with the DNA evidence and the mother gave consent. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about that as well, because let's talk about R. Kelly for a second. So when you look at that R. Kelly case, oh shoot, my mic fell out. Guys, I'm sorry, my mic fell out. My mic wasn't even on. Goodness, I apologize. I broke the clip, so please forgive me. When you look at I'm surprised that you guys still heard me. I'm pretty sure the sound was low, so I apologize. But when you look at the R. Kelly case, another monster. Brother Jason Black, who I don't agree with on everything, but he did a show a couple years back. I literally was listening to it while I was in Kenya. I think this was back in 2015, I believe, or 2014. No, I'm sorry, it was 2015 or 2016. Either 2015 or 2016, called R. Kelly Nation. And Jason Black broke down the R. Kelly case. And I'm going to say this, not to take away blame or guilt from Brother Polight or R. Kelly. But, no, not even but. And I think in the R. Kelly case, from my understanding, I haven't really been following it, but somebody said that they're going to go after the parents as well. And the reason why I say that's a good thing, and the reason why even in the Brother Polight case, why they need to go after the mom as well for something is that a lot of these mothers are serving up their daughters to these adult men. Again, a lot of these mothers, and I think in R. Kelly case, there's a father too. So we'll say parents are serving up their daughters to these adult men. And it's disgusting. Case in point, from my understanding with R. Kelly, these parents, these mothers were taking settlements, taking the money, getting their hair did, going on lavish vacations. So they didn't want justice. They were taking that money and blowing it. And this was going on for years. Again, this was going on for years. And so I believe a lot of these parents need to be held accountable as well. In fact, I like for some of the women to call in because I want to be very careful when it comes to this topic because I have questions. Again, I have questions. In fact, I was watching a video the other day where a young woman confronted her mother in regards to alleged sexual assault by the mother's boyfriend, and the mother pretty much dismissed the daughter. And I think a lot of times when, you hear like on Facebook, there was a young lady who on Facebook outed her sexual abuser from when she was growing up, from when she was little. And of course, you're going to have heat for the alleged sexual abuser, but it's like, I know when I was reading her story, she went to her mom, she went to her grandma to report the alleged sexual abuser. They did nothing. But her and her mom and her grandma are cool to this day. And I don't understand that part. That's the part I don't know. That's the part I don't get. And again, this is not to shift the blame or to give these monsters a pass. But it's like you went to your mom and your grandmother to, I guess, call out the sexual abuser in your family, right? They did absolutely nothing at all. You then out the alleged, again, I got to say alleged. You then out the alleged sexual abuser. You talk about how much pain and trauma it has caused you. But the two adults that you went to, who are your mother and your grandmother, y'all cool. That's Big Mama. That's my mommy. Y'all cool. And that's the point, like, I don't understand. Like, this monster allegedly did this to you, has caused all this trauma, which you're still struggling from to this day. You told the two matriarchs in your family. They ignored it. 20 years later, 30 years later, you're still experiencing this trauma. You're still hurt. You need counseling. You out the alleged predator. But you, the two matriarchs in the family who you went to, y'all cool. That's the part I don't understand. And I would like women, if you want to call in and explain that part I like to, help me understand. I mean, this could be a learning lesson for me because I just asked the part I don't get. How are you still cool with the matriarchs of the family who you went to in confidence? Again, who you went to in confidence to report these things that happened to you. They did nothing about it. No, Dami, if you could come on and you could turn your camera off, because I really would like to know. Because that's the part I don't get. It's when I see this and I read these stories. I read these stories of women later on in life outing the alleged sexual abusers, them giving details. And I promise you, always in the details. I told mama, I told grandmama, they did nothing about it. They allowed so and so to still come around and hang out, come to Thanksgiving, come to Christmas, come to this party, come to revival, come to the church. They did nothing about it. But then I'm looking at the pictures, you and mama hugged up, you and grandma hugged up. That's the part I don't understand. And I would love for a woman to call in and explain that part to me. Again, these people are still monsters if they're found guilty, or alleged monsters. But that's the part I don't understand. But hey, again, a woman wants to call in and talk about it where I could better understand, and by all means do it. Because I would like to know. Anyways, so Brother Polight, and guys, this is why you never really hear me, maybe out of my whole time on African Walker, that's an excuse. I'm sorry, that's an excuse. That's why I prefer a woman to come and explain it, because that's just, to me, that's an excuse. But again, I'd rather hear it from a woman. Okay, I was about to say, I lost my train of thought. Okay, but Brother Polight kind of represents a bigger issue in the so-called conscious community. That's why you never really hear me claiming to be a part of the conscious community. You never really hear me talk about being associated with the conscious community. And the reason why, Dami, you got to call in. There's a psychological component to it. That's vague and abstract. Like I have a question, being sincere, and that's the part I don't get. But anyways, no, I'm still in Nigeria. It's 9:10 a.m. Here's 9 in the morning. I'm in Nigeria. So that's why you never hear me claiming to be a part of the conscious community or a member of the conscious community. Because I noticed early on, once I start reading a lot of book and becoming conscious, the hypocrisy in the conscious community. What do I mean? Me, I like nice stuff. I gotta listen. When I moved to Nigeria, when I have my homes in Nigeria, my homes in Sierra Leone, I'm gonna be pushing G wagons. I love G wagon. That's my favorite car. I want a G wagon. I'm gonna be pushing a G wagon. I'm gonna be riding clean. Now I'm not gonna overdo it. Like, I don't need all the designer stuff. I'll wear my native attire. I'll wear my native fabrics, my native attire. Like, I don't need all that designer. I'm not into that stuff. But I gotta have me a G wagon. I'm sorry. I was telling people, man, I'm gonna have a couple G wagons. I got to. I gotta have me a G wagon. I like nice watches. I gotta have me a nice watch. I like nice stuff. But you have these people in the conscious community. Oh, you a capitalist. You this. You that. You this. It's you ain't for the struggle. And it's this fake struggle. These cats aren't fighting anything. They're not fighting anything. It is a fake pseudo struggle. They're not fighting the struggle. They're not. And when you see in Polight, what you see in Polight is it's this. There, shout out, hey Greg, I'm gonna call you. And Greg, I love for you, Greg. I love for you to call in. Greg, I love for you to call in, Greg, about Afghanistan. She used to serve in the military. Yeah, you different though. When COVID hit, I got all my African cash back. Yeah, I mean, dude, like when it comes to my tours, hey, I have a disclaimer. Like, look, this is how it works. Deposit will be credited to another trip. And then I said, hey, if we cannot travel due to COVID, I'm gonna shoot all your money back. And that's what I did. And either people, I'm off track a little bit. Shout out to Donnie Williams. Yeah, you different though. When COVID hit, I got all my African cash back. Respect Dynasty. Yeah, you're not gonna hear about Dynasty any scams or stealing money. That's not my character. I'm not that type of that's just not my character. I cannot live and sleep at night and walk around with a clear conscience stealing money. And you got a lot of people in this community that do that. And then make excuses, blame the Most High, all this other stuff. I don't operate like that. But anyways, what I started to notice is that many in the conscious community, these I'm not a capitalist, I'm a socialist, communist, capitalism is anti-African, is anti what's the word for Africa? Al-Kubulan, is that the word? Al-Kubulan. Is anti this, is anti that. Capitalism comes from the roots of slavery. Capitalism is rooted in slavery. As I started to really observe these cats in my early days, I started to notice that they were the biggest capitalists ever. And listen, it's okay to make a profit. My definition of capitalism is if you have a product or service, again, if you have a product or service that I find value in, no matter how much you're charging for it, if I pay for it, equal exchange, that's capitalism, in my honest opinion. And it was just a lot of just weird stuff going on. People saying they have all these special powers, but couldn't pay their light bill. People, the conscious community will talk about how they have all these special powers from the universe, but, then ask me, for money for their power bill and their phone bill. But you got all this knowledge, but you need me to help you pay your phone bill. And it turned me off. I mean, it's nice reading the books, but it's just the community. I never clicked with the community. Like the information. No, I'm dead serious. All the special powers, one with the universe, all of this stuff. But then, and I'm not mocking anybody. I'm not mocking anybody. But, when I was dead broke, when I had my times, when I had my times, there were times I was dead broke. And I used to say to myself, I have all this information. Why the hell am I broke? Why am I struggling? And what it did, it humbled the hell out of me. But again, they would all this, all these special powers, all this metuneta, all this, that, and then they ask for money for the phone bill. And then we'll talk bad about you, because at this time I was working in corporate America. Well, then talk bad about you for having a job. We'll talk trash about you for having a job. Hold on, sorry. I just didn't get it. Again, I didn't get it. That too, don't pass the torch. There's no succession plan. It's crazy. It's prison babble. Listen, and I talked about this before. A lot of this stuff originates from the prison system. The majority of this so-called conscious information originates from the prison system. I've said that before. That's where the majority of it originates from. It just turned me off. Okay, well, Wadi, won't you call in and answer the question? I mean, guys, yeah, so the question is, we were talking about Brother Polight, who it doesn't look good for him. I mean, what he's doing with yeah, it's disgusting. Like, what are you doing with a 14-year-old at an after-hour spot? That enough is. So, I would like a woman to call in. Let me put the link. You know what? Let me put the link in the chat room. Hold on. Links in the chat room. I'm not insulting a whole community. I'm just saying, like, look, we have to be honest with ourselves. It's okay if you are a capitalist in a conscious community. Fine, be that. Stop pretending that you aren't. Yeah, I'm in Nigeria. It's okay. It is okay. If you like nice stuff, if you want a clean ride, like I said, I'm pulling up G-Wagons. Again, I'm pulling up G-Wagons. There's nothing wrong with that. But I know there's the same people who spent their whole conscious career, a lot of them, criticizing capitalism, criticizing having white man trinkets. Them themselves are the biggest capitalists. That's what I noticed. But I would like a woman to call in. Because again, this is where I need clarity. I would like a woman to call in because I need clarity on this. Because I noticed. Well, I said alleged, because again, you're not guilty. I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty by the court of law. So allegedly, it's not looking good. And for the life of me, I don't understand why would you take a 14-year-old to an after-hour spot? Who does that? So with the DNA, it's not looking good. But again, we say alleged because that's just what that's how things work. And like I said earlier, it's not looking good for Brother Polight. But then also, too, I know a lot of men, well, several men who were wrongfully accused. But Brother Polight's situation, that's not looking good at all. Period. But then, like I said, I know men who were lied on, whose names were cleared, thank God. But for Brother Polight, nah, that's not looking good at all. Yeah, it's not looking good at all. But like I said, because of legalities, we have to say alleged. But it's not looking good, especially with the DNA. And what are you doing? Why would you put yourself in a position taking a 14-year-old to an after-hour spot? Who does that? So it's not looking good. But again, we have to say alleged because he hasn't been found guilty yet. But it's not looking good. If I were a betting man, I would say, yeah, it's not looking good. So, anyways, I would like a woman to call in, links in the chat room, and explain. So, again, you hear women outing their alleged Milcar talked about that too. And we got to start holding these parents accountable too. We got to start holding these moms accountable too. How you gonna let your 14-year-old, how are you gonna allow your 14-year-old to go to an after-hour spot with your boyfriend? We got to start holding these mothers accountable as well for something. That still does not give Brother Polight a pass at all. But how you gonna let a 14-year-old? I mean, what kind of mindset is that? I'm gonna allow my 14-year-old to go to an after-hour spot with a 37-year-old man. Come on now. Okay. No, so the question was, again, my question is, on Facebook, when I see these women outing their alleged sexual abusers and they tell their story, always in the story, I went to my mother, I went to my grandmother, I told them what happened, they didn't report it, they didn't believe me. 20 years now, I'm still struggling with this trauma. But then I notice when I go through the Facebook page, them, I guess the accuser is always hugged up, smiling in pictures. I love mommy. I love grandmommy. Even though they didn't do anything during your time of need when you were allegedly sexually abused, they cool. That's the part I don't get. That's the part I don't get. I'm talking about every time someone comes on and shares their piece and their story about sexual abuse when they were little and how they're still dealing with the trauma. In the story, I told my mom, told my grandma, they did nothing. But 20 years later, you're still struggling with mental issues. You're still struggling with the trauma. You, mommy, and grandma, y'all cool. So, all right, links in the chat room if you want to call in. Also, again, let me the Hidden History Museum. Tariq Nasheed, congratulations for raising $1 million. That tells us that Black people got money and that when we put our minds together for something, heads together, we can raise the money. Now, again, this is me. I'm not part of the Hidden History Museum building committee or anything. Like, they have a plan. I hope it works out. But would I build a museum in gentrifying, overpriced Crenshaw? No. Would I build a museum in a place where Black people are being locked out economically? No. Because you heard I don't know if you read the article in regards to Baldwin Hills Mall. A Black company came in, wanted to buy it, bid was higher. They said no. Nipsey Hussle's, that whole shopping complex he had, they no longer own that. So just me personally, I mean, building Atlanta. But you know, when you listen to and read what's Claude Anderson's book in regards to, in regards to what we should be doing to get back on track as Black people in America, buying off politicians, so that $1 million can be used to buy off the politicians in LA. Because right now, Black people in LA are at the bottom of the totem pole. White people, Hispanics, Asians, everybody else run LA. Black people are at the bottom. So maybe use that money to buy off some politicians. Use that money to build industries and create jobs. I mean, there's so many other ways that you can use that money. But again, it's not in my place. It's not my money. I didn't donate. I'm not part of the planning committee, so it's not in my place. Maybe they have a bigger plan, but hey, who knows? But anyways, you still got to congratulate that brother for raising $1 million. Sephora, go ahead.
Mic check, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Okay.
Let me put my earpiece in real quick because. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Last thing I remember is when you talked about the molestation thing and
Hold on
why.
1 second. Let me put this earpiece in real quick. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, Sephora, go ahead.
And why it appeared that one would still be cool with the mother or the parent after their parent didn't do anything about it or failed to protect them. Was that the question?
That was the question.
Okay. Because that situation is very common for a lot of people.
Right.
And what I feel like it is the guilt that they feel. And so it's actually easier to forgive them. Like I was upset for so long, but if people have a lack of education or they don't understand or they don't have help, they really don't know what to do. I came out when I was 37 years old. Well, actually twice, but I remember my mother like freaked out and was like, "No, that didn't, go on." And then later on, she knew that it did, but her reaction was like, "No," And I think it was just the guilt of being a neglectful parent and lack of education because you would know like not to have a grown man with your preteen daughter or have a teenage boy. I mean, there was a teenage boy babysitting uh little girl, like 4 year old, you know what I mean? And I know that they done molested people. I mean, I know that that's a possibility. So I'm thinking about that in my mind. But for some reason, the old generation wasn't thinking about things like this. And then whenever you
Okay.
talk to them about it, they just freak out, go around in circles and say you know, th- it's sometimes it's more trouble than what it's worth, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So, but do you think it's still a lack of accountability?
Yes. It's a lack of accountability and not wanting to admit that you was a neglectful parent and that you were not being attentive and just wasn't doing a good job. And that old generation, I believe that they mostly do lack accountability. My children are 21 and 19. They're more educated than my mother, so to say. And they can tell you things, they can say things, and you have to say like yes because they're smart enough to tell you. I went to the army and something happened with my kids while I was gone working,
Oh
but I
wow.
could not say, what. I'm 37 years old though, so
Hmm.
I understand what my kids are saying. It almost seems as if they just don't understand. I mean, my pop died the other day. He was over 75 years old. He might have been close. I really don't know how old my father was. But there was five mothers in between us, and my mother was the only one who left the said community, or like I've even been linked to conscious communities, and I didn't know that word until 3 years ago.
Uh
And
huh.
so I kind of get sensitive about things like that because I felt like Americans projected they stuff on me because they probably knew more about that. And just to come to find out, some of my family members were, I guess, a part of this. My dad is a Rastafari. I don't know if you would consider that. My
It's
grandmother's a high
it's
priest. I
yeah,
don't
it's
know if
conscious
you.
community. It's
Okay.
conscious community. Yeah.
Okay. See, until 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about a conscious community. I didn't know some people were afraid of talking about voodoo. There's Nigerians in my family that practice Ifa. I
Hmm.
practice Ifa, but I've never been initiated anything. So I'm being linked to things, and I'm like, hold on, that's just that's just what I do. So I'm like, all these boxes of black, like I didn't understand it. So I'm like, I don't believe you can box everybody
Right.
in. You just can't. So
I agree. I agree. Yeah, because I'm noticing like, and especially in the conscious community, this goes on a lot from what I.
it does. I was on my way to Africa and I got stranded in the South, and I'm a wanderer. I wander around a lot and talk, and there was a lot of chatter about that. Because they have the festivals and events, so there's all types of different things going on up and down the South. So there's people I hadn't seen since I was like 7 years old. Talking about things like that. Coming home, discussing those things. And I believe it was a lack of accountability and resources as well. If you think that your only resources, and I'm just putting myself in them women's shoes, or whoever's shoes, if they think their money is going to get cut off or they don't have anybody to help them, and also lack of education. I ran into a lot of people who could not read and couldn't do certain things that other people could do, and they
Mhm.
probably needed to be taught in a different type of way. That's why I deal with people with special needs and abilities, because I have that as well. And then if you have the right person teaching you, you can really advance, but that doesn't take you away from having social anxiety or different things like that. But it's also the lack of education. Because when I was in the South, I would run into women and I would ask them three questions. I was like, "Did your parents didn't want you on the internet? That they always accuse you of sex when you left the area?" And there was something else, but it was the truth. Like they had the same commonality, the lack of education. It was a trip.
So what have you done like as far as correct me if I'm wrong. So you were sexually abused as a child. Am I
Yes.
right? Okay. Like what did you do? I guess have you healed from that completely or?
No, I don't think you'll ever heal from that, but I do know that being sexually abused as a child, it had something to do with it's the behaviors. I remember being a child and I had got with one of my, and I'm trying to keep from saying this because I made a video cussing y'all out like about a month ago, I think, and I don't know if you saw it. I hope not, but
Uh,
um, it makes you confused as a child because you don't know how people are supposed to treat you, and
mhm.
people who are predators, they can pick up on that. So I remember just getting older because it happened at like 4 years old, and I really didn't know what happened to me until I was 12 years old. But I can remember other predators like picking up on that and trying to get a piece of the pervert pie. You know what I mean? So that's how I guess it affected me, just like words and things like that. And so I learned to be really sensitive towards people. So when I go around and they know they call me the big mouth, I run my mouth. So people kind of avoid me. I don't know if I mean, not people, but just like folks who want to keep secrets like that. They don't like being around me because I don't keep them. No, I haven't
Mm,
healed from that because it's not just that. What it does is things build on it. Things build. So if something like that happens to you at 4,
mhm.
I remember I was about 12 and we were in California about 12. I think you say you went to Berkeley, but remember like there was Willard Middle School and Berkeley High, and there was
I'm from Sacramento, but you went to Berkeley High.
I went to Willard Middle School, but we lived in Berkeley for a good amount of. I was born in Berkeley, and we moved
Okay.
around like every 3 years of my life.
Mhm. Okay.
So I have a unique experience. But there's a middle school, a college, a high school, like all in that area. And I just remember being a preteen, whoever was sexually active, all of they would it didn't matter what age. Like I just remember things going on.
Uh huh.
So if somebody got molested at 4, they're more likely at 12 to have a sexual relations with somebody older than them in that area. Could be a pervert college student, just a bunch of people running around. And black kids and Hispanic kids, they were working a lot, so their parents wasn't watching them a whole lot.
Oh
It
wow.
was a struggle to keep your virginity. As soon as we got to Illinois, I got pregnant right away. Soon as, because we would yell at the boy, we would yell at boys or men or whoever they were, and they would run after us. And we thought it was a game, but some people would get caught, and it just was really rough.
You
And
said get
then
caught. Okay, what do you mean? You were they will run after you and you get caught? Like,
what I mean get caught is that they may have sex with you or grab your butt, or I mean sex is pretty extreme, but there were people sexually active. I wasn't sexually active at that time, but what I'm explaining is things build on a younger sexual abused person. That's what I'm trying to explain, that they can be more sexual or be more interested in boys or men at a early age if they got abused at 4 or something like that. I
so how
remember
was the? Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
I was saying I remember being interested in boys or men at a very young age. And I remember when I hit middle school, that's when I took notice of sexually active people and just their age ranges and things like that. And if their parents wasn't watching them, it was like anybody can do whatever. But some people might have had morals. I don't know. It was just very, that's what was happening.
Can I? And this is. Let me back up for a second. So did you? So you? But you told you? Did you? I guess confront your parents or grandmother about what happened and
Yeah,
later on in life.
when I was about 14, because we moved back to Illinois when we were, I had forgot all about the abuse. And then when we were moving to Illinois, and then I remember I asked my mom, because she was like, oh, Andre used to babysit you guys. And I was like, how old was Andre? Because I remembered it right away when she said that. And she said that he was like 15 or 16. And I was like, well, we was like 4, 5, and 6. And I told her that that happened, and she just was real shocked and was like, no, no, it didn't. And then later on she admitted the same day, and she was very upset about this, but it went to her feelings being hurt. It wasn't about me, the child. It went to her feeling all guilty and me putting the shame on myself. That's what parents do. So when that happened with my children, I knew not to do that.
Hmm.
I knew
So you.
not to. Mhm.
So you're saying it happened to your children,
Yes, it did.
and you have a son.
I have 2 sons. Yes.
Oh man, was it okay? I don't want to.
No, no, you
Was it
can
by
ask because they're
was it by women?
no, I don't think so. It was by male cousins of mine. It from the same family in my mother's family, so that's why it kind of made me feel like it's something going on in my mom's family, because a lot of people, not just my family, but just other families that was in that area. And I remember there was some projects we was living in when I first came out like a year ago. I was like, whoever was living in them projects, y'all know what was going on. And everybody kind of stopped talking to me, because I said the truth. But
Mhm.
it,
Have you done counseling at all?
yeah,
It's
I
still
have.
no. It's still no resolve or.
See, what I was trying to explain is things build up. Like I've learned to get my confidence up and love myself. So part of like that conscious thing, me learning more about that and finding my roots. I do a lot. I buy myself a lot, and I like doing a lot of the. I consider myself a whole lot of different things, but that internet and that financial thing, sometimes there is a big barrier between certain mystical people and things like that. That's something I want
Mhm.
to tell you. So I've learned to deal with that, but the things build off that. You never get over something like that, because by them not believing or thinking something, and I was also a special child as well. Like I have ADHD and I have some other
Okay.
things and autistic traits, so people always thought I was weird. So I ran off a lot, and I ran
Okay.
to the army, and my family didn't see me for years.
Can we
So
speak on that? Can we? Finish your statement, but I just don't want to forget. I want to talk about the running off to the army.
yeah,
I want to talk about that, but continue your statement.
yeah. So I didn't relate to anybody, so I just was moving around and just had things. I only was able to associate with myself and my surroundings, which was nature, because I thought people wasn't shit. And then I would go off and wouldn't tell nobody. So they're like, "Oh, she's the different one. She's the one that want to do something else."
Okay. The running off to the army, because I'm noticing that being the outlet, I'm gonna run off to the army. Why is that? Especially with sisters, like I mean, army. That's like army, but
Well,
why
in
is it?
my case, it was the men where I was from and where I was at. Like, I was a preteen. I'm about 14, and I hate to say, but this is true. I'm from preteens in a small town, and congregating with men, and I got in through a man. I was like trying to join the Peace Corps, just anything I could do to get out that little town. And
Hmm.
there was this army recruiter who got me in. And it was me associating with young men that let me do it. But if I knew what I knew now, I would not have joined myself. I would have did one of the marriages or got with one of the men. I wouldn't have did none of that shit because the army builds up on domestic, like, it promotes promiscuity, domestic
Yeah.
violence, and just all this other bull stuff. So you don't really, you go from sexually abused to something like that. So you just not, to me, society don't let you get over that unless you just get away from people who doing that. That's the only outlet I can see. And then you're sensitive to people doing it. So whenever I was in crowds or if I saw something funny, I was that person like, what's funny going on? Like, why they doing something funny? And then they say, oh, you paranoid. Ain't nothing really going on. But it's not that I'm paranoid. It's just I'm sensitive. I'm seeing it. I'm like, hold on, what's going on? Because if nobody paid attention to you, you paying attention to everything. You hyper vigilant.
Because you mentioned the army, and so like, what really goes on? Because you mentioned the whole, sexual abuse and all that in the army. Because I'm noticing like every couple of months there's a story of somebody killing somebody else's spouse because that spouse on the base slept with that person or something
The
wild.
army
That
is the
go
most like it's the most hypocritical, like it's that industry stuff. The army is the biggest industry that it is, and I can't wait till the women get change in the laws and stuff because Congress does has a lot to do with what goes on in the army once people learn how to do it. Because I've gotten some things changed, and that's why I didn't know I was black when I was in the army fighting for my rights. But yeah, there's a lot of perversion. And then if you are, by the time I was getting out, if I saw a young lady or something and I saw what was going on, I would be real sensitive. So, I wasn't a friendly person in the unit.
hmm
Some of the bad men didn't like me because they could get called out. So it's very promoted to be promiscuous, to fraternize. They say that it's not, but when you go overseas and everybody's sleeping around or whatever, then if you don't do it, you're labeled something. Like I was accused of sleeping with the Iraqis. I'm just really into,
what?
when I went to Iraq the first time, I was accused of sleeping with the local nationals because I was learning things from them and I would talk to them like people.
Mhm.
I mean, I had my army friends and stuff because people would have like the private drunk parties, be in a barracks room drinking, things like that. Um, they will have DJ parties, like get a
Mhm.
gym, a DJ, and be partying. And then if you are associate doing something else besides that, you are, oh, you want to sleep with the Iraqis. Like there was nothing, it's too many men. So I
Mhm.
didn't think that it was appropriate. Like, I don't condone no women joining the army either unless it changes. But you need money, and the men
Right.
don't give you enough money. So that's what it was.
You mean what do you mean you need money? The men don't give you enough money.
You need money, and the men don't give you enough money. Like, the one thing about some of the communities, if they have a compound, at least you have somewhere to go, or they have something. But being a woman, having to, like, I don't like nothing about American society, marriage. There's nothing like that. Um, so they don't, just like I said, they don't help the women. They don't give them enough money. The women got to do everything for themselves. Work just like a man and treat a man like a man. Like, I don't see how they even can do it. And I do believe in polygamy and arranged marriage. Before my dad died, I agreed to be arranged like a long time ago, um, some years back, because some people ain't capable of choosing their own partner. They should not choose their own partner. And I think that about a lot of women in America. So I'm shocked that men don't like women with trauma. I feel like they should learn how to deal with women with trauma better, because that's what a lot of women have.
I think the issue is, and I want a man to call in now. And I'm trying. I didn't want this to be a relationship show, but this is interesting. I think the problem
Because it
is,
all
like,
correlates.
I'll say this. I never, the most trauma I've ever dealt with is when I blew my knee out in college. So I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm just not really equipped to deal with trauma. I'm not, because I don't understand, because I don't come from a trauma background. I was protected. Like I said from the beginning, when I got into a disagreement with my mother, the first thing my friend said, I hope you guys can't, sorry about the mic. The first thing my friend asked was like, Dinus, have you ever been sexually abused growing up? I said, no. She said, Dinus, he said, Dinus, did your mom ever smoke crack in front of you? I said, no. He said, well, you got a good mom. I was like, wow. Like, I didn't deal with none of that. And I can't really relate. And I'm just being honest. And I think that's what counseling is for. I think that's why, when I hear women who've been abused growing up, who go to their parents and tell them, and the parents do nothing about it, I'm like, okay, you need to heal with your
Well, there's
mom.
no
Because I think,
healing. Ain't no
well, see,
healing for that. But counseling.
and that's the problem, Steph. Not to cut you off. It's like, so you're not healed, but then you want to go into a relationship with somebody and you're not healed. And I think that's not fair to that person that you're going to get into a relationship with. Because I think a lot of this trauma, women need, it starts with women and their mothers. It starts with women and their grandmothers. Because the stuff I hear about that's going on in these houses, and mama and grandmama are getting a pass, I'm like, nah, but the men are getting beat up on. I'm like, that needs to start with the mom, the matriarch. I think that healing starts there, because you're bringing that into a relationship, but it's not fair to men like me, because I just don't know how to deal with it. I'll be honest,
Well,
because we have
you
so.
should have therapy. I don't think, being older, you learn how to not trauma dump on people. You know what I mean? Like, I know that now. Like, you learn how to not trauma dump and go to therapy when you're older and you get more mature from a relationship. But somebody that's in their early whatever, they don't really know. So sometimes people didn't get abused. Like, I've been with men that been to, like, most of my dating was military, and they've been to Iraq. They done had seen deaths, done killed people. I done seen people die, but I've never killed anybody. So their PTSD, regardless if they got abused, they could have came from a beautiful background. There's some NFL, there's people in the army or did terms where nothing happened to them in their childhood, but they saw something or something happened that made them, act a certain way. And I think it's the same thing with a man that got pimp mentality and he's trying to date a good wholesome woman. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way that I see it now. Because when you're in your younger years, you don't know how to do that if you're not educated. My kids took psychology in high school, so they knew. I didn't take it till I was over 30 years old, so they
Mhm.
know a little bit more. So what you say, I agree with you, and that being true. However, I don't think it's different than a man sleeping around than a woman having that issue because he's lying, sneaking, and then she's having an attitude because she's insecure of, like I don't see one thing holding more weight than the other. But that confrontation, there's really nothing you can do about it except for decide whether what you gonna do to your mom, beat her up. I mean, what
Well,
can
you well, you're not. I mean, I'm not saying you beat her up, but I just think. Okay, here's my question.
Yeah, give me an example of what you can do because of what
Ha-
I've seen
have you been to counseling with your mother?
with her.
Yes.
Yes and no.
Okay. Okay. Expand on
No,
that.
no, because it wasn't a family therapy thing. I went and she came with me, but it was military stuff for my PTSD, because trauma can beget trauma, but some people do have therapy with their family, but we just
Right.
never did that.
Have you ever considered that? Because that's another thing I'm noticing. Like, why
Because there's
no?
layers. People have to do it themselves. Like, first, she has to get therapy from herself. My mom got married to my dad at 16, and he was like 28.
Oh
They
wow.
come from a polygamous, separated family. So it would be hard for me to go to therapy with her if she doesn't get therapy to understood what happened with her,
Mhm.
you
Let me
know.
bring one second. Let me bring Jose. Go ahead, Jose. You're live. Jose, you didn't walk away. Jose,
Jose. Oh, there you go.
Yes,
I'm a
how
mute
are you,
him.
uh,
brother?
I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you? You're
I'm
doing
fine. How are
fine.
you? Yes, sir.
Yeah, trauma. Mothers. Where should I start? You know, I've my past 20 years. I'm in a rough trip. I wanted to repatriate in 2003. I was sick and tired of the West, and I was into ICT, had a bit of money, and wanted to go back and build something up. And I bumped into a heavy, fat wall, and my mother turned out that she wasn't the strong black woman that I thought she was. Um, the rough, or the how it's called, tough love. The tough love that I received was actually I am her narcissistic supply, and my whole life played as a movie, and I realized that we don't have a safety net. We The word trauma, when we speak of our sisters' trauma, it's most of the time it's after a broken up relationship, in my experience, and but we don't approach it with a safety net reflex. So it's in my experience it's more used as an excuse, but well, whatever number the date says, if it's before Christ, 2000 before Christ, of 2000 after Christ, women still are the primary educators. And if the car factory is broken, do you keep fixing the cars, or will one day you look at the car factory, if you understand where I'm coming from? So it's I'm walking on eggshells, because if you if you if you criticize, even that word is dangerous. If you criticize our sisters, then you're the devil. You done it. You're well, black men are the new white supremacist and all that type of nonsense. But we need a safety net for example, in my younger years, for my what's that by proxy? What's that situation called when a mother hurts a baby for attention? Uh, a German name by proxy. And my life, in my life, it was seamless. It was seamless from that situation to adulthood. So, as a narcissistic supply, the narcissist enjoys your suffering. So what I thought was tough love, and actually I answered to all the crazy demands, just like my father. So I am traumatized. I'm damaged, but I don't come from a single mother, and still the kink is with the mother. Actually, it's my generational curse. My father was abandoned. I am the narcissistic supply of my mother, and at this point something is playing with the mother of my own child. So we could fix a lot if we listened to each other with care in our mind instead of anger and conflict. That's what I wanted to share.
Okay. Sephra, you want to mute yourself and respond to that? No, she dropped off. Okay. All right, guys, if you want to call in, link is in the chat room. Click on the link. Again, click on the link if you'd like to call in and add to the conversation. Click on the link and you're more than welcome to call in. If not, we're going to go ahead and start closing out. I'm in Nigeria, so I'm not eating my breakfast. It's almost 10 a.m., so I'm going to go grab something to eat more than likely. Also, here we go. She's back.
Am I back in?
Hey, Sephra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, because he had got out. What he said about his relationship, what I wanted to add on to that, was you saying that you saw what was going on between you and your mom, like kind of reflect in your relationship with your children's mom or your wife or whatnot?
No. But I do realize well, I'm an empath, so to speak.
Okay,
I believe an empath is just another pole on the line, on the narcissist line. But I can't let go. So my father with his elephant skin, I'm a copy of my father with his elephant skin. So yes, my relationship. I'm a narcissist magnet.
yes, that's the same thing that it was with me until I had to learn how to kind of change that. But I noticed that with my brother, like I always was begging for attention, like look at this, look at that, look what I'm doing or whatever, and I didn't get attention unless it was bad attention. And I noticed my uh adult relationships, the men was acting the same way that my family members was acting towards me. I guess they were narcissistic or not good, but nobody told me how to not be in that. I had to learn, you know.
Well, I dove into it, and we as black people should really um, dive into covert narcissism there's a sort of system they build around them, flying monkeys and enablers.
Yes,
And of course the particular victim or victims, but the our communities, especially in the diaspora, are breeding ponds and it becomes a vicious cycle from generation to generation. It's a breeding pond for personality disorder. As long as we discard each other, it's value that we don't give each other. It's like we are each other's asset, just like everyone around the covert narcissists are his or her asset. So we are each other's asset. When I called in the subject was these pro-black and conscious people, and they speak about a movement and listen to this and follow me and believe this, but they are collecting assets for their confirmation. We lack confirmation. Our surroundings don't confirm us, and especially not the village that is supposed to grow us.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
so
shit.
so we don't value each other as long as we're not if you're not an asset in my collection, you have no value for me. That's how we look at black faces. And white faces is Jesus. It's the employer. It's the ambulance. It's the politician, etc., etc. So we're getting sicker every minute.
I agree with you, but not everybody is like that. And although I said all of this stuff, I agree with you. And I feel like I really believe that there is a spiritual warfare to keep certain people and energies away from each other to progress. I don't know what it is, because you're right about a lot of families and situations having that commonality, but everybody is not a narcissist. And what I see is that that's in the dating game too, and that's promoted. Like you dating people, and then you can discard or ghost or do things like that. And I'm like, if you want to do that, you could just go to a prostitute. But somebody one would rather practice on an innocent victim than practice on a prostitute, which to me,
Sephra, if I can interject real quick, somebody brought that up in the chat room. I mean to ask that. These perverts, right? Why don't they just get a prostitute of age? That's what I don't like. I don't. That's the problem. Like, it's sick.
Well, that's it's when I was at school, things change, and when you're older, we should warn next generation for it, because when I was at school, how LGBTQ is pushed right now, back then it was divorce, for example. I lost my thought train, man. Excuse me.
Okay.
I think
You-
it's a
but-
sacrifice, and they like to prey on the innocence. And I
Oh
think it's
yes, it's
common with
it,
adult people too, because I was always a little, although I got pregnant when I was a very young age and I had two kids, I was very less sexual and less promiscuous than the people around me. And then when I did get around them, it was always somebody would try to want to have group sex with me, or try to, a man would see my, I guess, lack of education and want to advance me or tell me something more pervert, or like I date men, and I'm talking about when I was dating, start dating. I went to Korea when I was like 27, and I stayed for like 5 years. So I'm around a lot of military men, people going overseas, international colleges, and I noticed that I didn't notice until after it was over. If they noticed a less sexual me, they wanted to try to tell me more. Like they always said stories about threesome, orgies, foursome, and I've never had sex with more than one person in my life. But for some reason, the American men I ran into would always sense something and want to pray. Like, it was very rarely I meet like a regular person, and I feel like that's common in dating. And that's why it kind of made me a little nervous, because when I found out that this rapper man told me they like women with dreads and women from conscious communities coming to them, some shit, so I'm like, these motherfuckers. So when I see Americans and Africans, I'd be like, what I always assume they are exploiting the this
I
may not be true, but this is what I think. I always
yes.
assume.
It was what I wanted to talk about. I remember. It was explained. That's why I got into school. It was explained that boys grow up in a home with a dominant mother, in adulthood it comes back in expressing power over women. Here in the Netherlands there was a gang rape epidemic in basements. Young girls were getting gang raped, quote unquote raped. I'm sorry, the subject came back, and in my days at school, people still dared to speak about kinks in the cable of mothers. Nowadays, you can't even touch the subject. But anyway, the urge for these gangbangs and group sex and trios is power, a form of power over the female that these boys and men desire, coming from a dominant mother in the household. That's something to think about.
Well, I hope they stop because I think they fucking suck and I think it's disgusting. And also, like, me hearing about, and I would be told as well. Like they would talk and I would be told. I remember I had a boyfriend who wanted to tell me everything about his childhood and stuff, and he was free growing up. So, even though I got molested, we were not free. Like we couldn't like go and like date and things like that. As soon as I got in a room with a boy, it was pregnancy, and next thing you know, I was living as a wife with my children's father until I ran off as a teenage girl. So some Americans, they were free to go and be a teenager and have sex what they wanted to, and it kind of damaged my brain hearing about these free, how their parents allowed them to go because they also were very I know the
Is that
Yoruba man's
parenting?
supposed to be celibate sometimes, so I have a what you call it prejudice to uh some men because I think that they're gonna be like that, whether they are or not. And I just say that only thing we can do. I don't have any small children anymore, but I don't think like it's safe to bring kids in the world anymore with things like that. So
Expand on that.
expand on what? It
You
being
don't think
safe
it's
to
safe
bring.
to bring kids in the world, just in
I mean,
general, or
well, it depends on where you are, but if they're a American society, no, like period, because I don't really agree. Like some people should not be choosing their mate. They shouldn't be making no sexual. Like I watch porn. I watched it when I was a kid, but I watch whenever I could myself. I watched the same one like over and over again until like a year ago, and I watched it. And sometimes when I watched it, I would be like, "That person ain't making a legal decision. Like this person is not capable of choosing a partner." So it's unfortunate if you don't have any logical family to help you choose a mate or be in a relationship, but I don't think some people should be dating each other. It's just not safe. I'm my age right now, and my family is like, think something bad gonna happen, and whenever I leave the house, well, I can't like I have to be totally independent. But they always thought some man was gonna come in and do something bad to one of the teenage girls. They always think that. Like I'm a single woman a whole age, and they still think prevent you from going on dates. You see what I'm saying? Because of how afraid they are of men. They think that men and I'm not saying women don't do this, but in general, from what I've seen at the South, there was men doing more of the sexual stuff, or they was getting caught for it. I don't know, but they was afraid of men, like they afraid somebody gonna get taken advantage or get the do-lo twist, the manipulation, the game. Everybody can't be involved in that, and Americans seem to think that's okay for everybody to do. You know, when my people, some people picked up on the arranged marriages, and I agreed to let my parents do it for me, because there's a lot of reasons. But they make fun of that and be like, "Oh, you should be able to do it yourself," or blah blah blah. But I'm like, okay, if I pick shitty men or shitty men pick me, your parents can see more than what you see. I wish I could pick my kids. Like, I feel bad even raising them in the Western system. I wish I would have went been able to go somewhere else, because you could just do too much of what you want. No checks and balances. Anybody could babysit. It just, if you can have control over yourself, I mean, your family, those things could be prevented. But if you got a white man judge and anybody could take the kids anywhere, I don't see how that can be successful all the time with what is going on for.
I agree. Guys, links in the chat room. We'll take a couple more callers. If you'd like to call in and add to the conversation, link is in the chat room. Again, we'll take a couple more callers.
It Things
Go
like
ahead.
that goes on. I want to say something good. I
Go
mean,
ahead. Go
if
ahead.
this
Go ahead.
isn't good, there can be really, there can be some good things. Being molested or perpetrated on in a sexual way for anybody is never good. But one thing I could say, when something like that happens to people younger, they have a tendency, from what I've seen, to be overtly smart and successful. Like, they can do all of these things, but their mental health, they have to do extra self care. So, Dinus, when you said the counseling and the healing, extra self care, like playing a lot. Some people will say that we're childish. We may have a younger demeanor. Like, I play double dutch, I be dancing, playing with the balls, I be kicking it. But for my age, somebody might say, "Oh, you too old to be doing all of that and all of that." But that's from a stolen childhood. So I'm like, I think that people should accept more adults having a good time like a child, non-sexual, but if they have a habit or something, let them do it. Like, I like looking at the sky, be going to the park, be making my items, painting and stuff, but it's not an adult activity to people around me. So I just prefer to be alone rather than be stared at and looked upon. So people who got molested, they may have a special quality or talent. So we can't just deny those people. And a lot of people with disabilities get sexually preyed upon. So when I volunteer and I work with people, and especially children with disabilities, I could see it from a mile away. You know what I mean? So I make a point where I'm having fun, and uh, you can't just go everywhere because you can't be dancing around having fun, but I'm still a professional woman. But I feel like society should allow people to be more than authentic self, and I hope with certain shifts we're allowed to do that. All right.
That's cool. All right, cool. All right, guys. So we'll take a couple more callers. If not, we'll go ahead and log out. Jose, anything else you want to add in closing?
Uh, thank you for having me and having the chance to share this, because it's our people anywhere do not want to speak about personality disorders and our social psychological kinks. It's very difficult. So thank you very much for giving me those minutes to share what I had to say.
No problem. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror Search for a Guru. I'll be back on later on this afternoon, too. Peace.